On today's episode of Tiaras Tears and Triumphs podcast, I'm going to talk about self-care. So we're living in this really uncertain time at the moment with COVID-19, and although we were hoping in 2021 that we would be saying goodbye to COVID and that we would be putting it all behind us and be returning to normality and normal life. That isn't the case, and we're dealing with a new strain, Omicron, and it has, been the worst it's ever been here in Australia where I live, and I know that that is also the case in many other countries around the world. So in lots of ways, we have become accustomed to living with COVID, but there has been a lot of change throughout that time. 1 minute we are asked to wear masks and it's regulated. The next minute, no masks. We're asked to get vaccinated. Then the length of time between vaccinations will change. So there's lots of variables, and it's really, really challenging to keep up with the constant changes that we are being called upon to implement in our lives day to day. So this will take a huge toll on your peace of mind, because you're being bombarded all the time with all these variables where you don't know what to expect one day to the next. So in this episode, I really wanted to focus on the topic of self-care, and also because we're still at the beginning of a new year. And as we go into this new year, I just want you to be equipped with all that you need to take care of yourself during these uncertain times. So this is going to be a really I'm going to give you some tips to take away and work on in your life. I want you to remember that when you are in an aeroplane and, flying, traveling is, very questionable at the moment. Lots of people have gone and taken their holidays, but then there's also lots of people who are opting not to go on holidays right now because of the rapid increase in cases, and just as a way to try and protect themselves from coming into contact with COVID. So, but when you go on an aeroplane, you are given a safety drill, and this safety drill is always done at the beginning of flight, and you are instructed that if there is a need for oxygen masks during the flight, if there is an emergency, that an oxygen mask will drop down for you. Now, what they always say to you is that if you are with a child, that you make sure that you put on your oxygen mask first, and then you look after your child. And that is such a really stark reminder of what self-care looks like, and we can very easily neglect to put priority on our self-care. But when we don't, then that means that if we're not looking after ourselves, that when push comes to shove and there's a crisis, that we may not be able to look after the ones that we love. And this is why it is so important to make your self-care a priority. And if you are a victim or a survivor of an abusive relationship, self-care may not even be on your radar at all, because you find it quite impossible to find ways to look after yourself in that situation or post that situation, when you're still in that space of still being caught up in the energy of that situation. And so you're not accustomed yet to knowing what it is to feel relaxed again. So now I'm somebody who's immunocompromised, and so self-care really rates very high for me. And I'm not alone in being somebody who has done more eating, I suppose, during the pandemic, and I've gained a few extra kilos. And so now, because I know that I don't want to keep gaining, because I know it's not going to be healthy for me, and it's not going to help me to be my healthiest or strongest. I am being very careful about what I'm eating and making sure that good nutrition is really a big part of my self-care routine. So that's one thing to start off with. But I'm just going to run through a list now. So let's open the door on what self-care looks like and what tips you can take away from today's episode to help you take the very best care of yourself during these uncertain times that we're living in, where we really need to be